Hi everyone! For today's card project, I will be featuring Simon Says Stamp Pastel Color Blend Cardstock from the Beautiful Days collection, Reverse Sentiment Strips by CZ Design, the Bunch of Balloons stamp, and the Happy Birthday Script wafer die. So let's jump right into the card making project. Here I am taking the Bunch of Balloons stamp and putting it down on the inside door of my Misty stamping tool. Since this is a cling stamp, I took the foam and the mouse pad insert out because it's a thick stamp. Now I'm getting ready to open up the pastel color blend cardstock that comes in 8 distinct designs and a stunning array of pastel tones that you can add to your handmade cards, scrapbook pages, and mixed media projects with ease. The colors are just so gorgeous as you see me lay them out here on my Misty. Now that I have selected my blended background for this card, I place the background down inside my Misty. I'm working on lining up the cardstock with the cling stamp to get it lined up just right. I want the whole stamp background to cover the cardstock. The cardstock is crafted from 110-pound weight glossy cardstock and measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm having a little trouble lining the two up, but I finally got it. Now I'm taking my embossing magic powder bag. It's years old. You simply just take the bag and rub the powder over the cardstock before stamping. Then you take whatever clear embossing ink you have, and here I'm using Simon's embossing clear ink, inking up the background stamp real good. I then close the door to my Misty and push it onto the cardstock with the help of my stamping bug to help give it some extra pressure so we get a nice crisp result. I peel the cardstock off the stamp and you can see the watermark image it left behind. I then grab some plain white folded cardstock to lay down the background on. To heat emboss, I'm using the fine detailed white embossing powder from Simon. I sprinkle the powder all over clear stamped image, tapping off any extra powder with a dry brush from my stash and clearing off any little specks that were left behind. Once that is done, tap, tap, tap. A little bit more. Tap, tap, tap. I think we're good. Then I take the folded cardstock and funnel everything back into the container. Now I'm ready to get the heat gun out. I'm using my Wagner heat gun that I've had for years. It's hot and ready to go. You want to melt all the white powder. I think it will pick up in the camera. Here we go. Oh. Yep, I think you can see it starting to turn white. It's so pretty. It's really kind of a satisfying feeling once it's done. You get this really nice, crisp result. I just love it. Now I'm getting out my Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine to do some die cutting with my universal plate system. I'm setting up my sandwich to get ready to cut my cardstock panel. I start off with the platform base at the bottom, then the platform top B, then the cutting plate C, then the cardstock, and then I take the A2 layering wafer dies from waffle flour and line up just right where I want it, and then the cutting plate C. Then we run that through the die cut machine. Now we put that machine aside and we have our background ready to go. We are now getting the card base ready using my Scor Pal measuring and scoreboard. We take the cardstock and line it up and score it at 5 1/2 inches, and then we fold it in half using our Teflon bone folder. Make it sure, give it a good press down. nice and straight and even. Looks good. And turn the background over as I'm getting ready to add dimension. For that I'm using the big foam tape roll from Altenew. I trimmed the foam tape down with my fine detail scissors from Simon. I cut this about 4 strips out to cover up the back of the base. Almost done. This just adds some dimension to the card and will help give it some stiffness to it. And then I get my utility knife out here and I take the backers off. Next comes the tricky part when you need to line up the card panel to the card base. So here we go. And this glue is pretty sticky, so you don't have much wiggle room. I think I got it just right. It looks good. Now to get ready for the sentiment for the front of the card. I cut out the word Happy Birthday using the Simon Says stamp Happy Birthday script wafer die several times and Neenah white cardstock in the 80-pound weight. Then I cut out the Happy Birthday one more time in Simon's gold matte cardstock, and then I cut out the final layer in Simon's vellum. Now you see me using Simon's Place and Pierce embellishment wand to poke at all the innards as I get ready to stack up the sentiment for that added dimension. It really does make a difference. There's still some stragglers here that I'm trying to get out. There we go. A few more of the innards. Poke, 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 poke. Okay, that looks good. And now I'm getting out my little squeeze bottle that I picked up from Michael's, and I poured in some craft tacky glue from Simon. You need strong glue for this. I then added liquid glue to the back of the Happy Birthdays and then start to stack them all together with the help of my reverse tweezers. The liquid glue is nice because it gives you some wiggle room when attaching the die cuts together, and it takes a few to get them lined up just right. The gold matte cardstock and the vellum from Simon really stand out here when putting this word die together. There you go, you can see the liquid glue bottle in action. Just adding little dots around. And putting the last piece down. See, it's kind of finicky sometimes, so you have to be kind of quick to move. Press it down all nice and good. Now I think that looks pretty awesome. Like I said, that gold cardstock just stands out. And then we got to add some more glue so we can stick the sentiment to the vellum. Just adding some dots again. Here we go. Almost done. There we go. Okay, and then we take the tweezers and the vellum layer and line them up. Give it a good press down. And then we take an acrylic block to make sure everything adheres good. And the sentiment is ready for the card. And we just try to find a placement here for it. It looks good right in the center. We are now going to add a reverse sentiment strip from one of the CZ design collections. These strips are a great time saver and they look great on cards. It reads, "This card is your gift." That is the one that I'm picking. I'm setting up my sandwich just like from earlier, and I'm going to run it through my die cutting machine to cut out this strip. I'm just using a sentiment strip die from my stash. Sorry, it gets a little blurry there as I get it set up. I'm using some washi tape to hold down the sentiment strip die to keep it in place, because I'm going to cut from the left side and then the right side. And it just takes a few minutes to get it lined up and straight. And there we go. I think I got it now. A little blurry, but not too bad. Keeps going out of focus there. There we go. Okay, now we're ready to run it through the die cut machine. There we go. Nope, the top plate slid off a little bit, so we had to reset that. And then we do the same sandwich for, same setup for the other side of the sentiment strip. There we go. And we just line it up right. And then we hold it down with some washi tape. And we run it through the die cut machine again. There we go. And now we have a sub-sentiment strip ready for the front of the card. I just thought this was a cute little saying to add. This card is your gift. And then we put down the card and we try to line everything up. Before that, though, I get out my black Copic marker because it's printed on white cardstock, so you could see the see it through the edge there. So I just take the black Copic marker and color the sides all the way around. And there we go. Now it's ready. So then I get out my glue and we add the liquid glue dots just on the back of the cardstock because we don't want it to show through the vellum. So we're adding all the little dots all the way around. A little tedious, but that's okay. Almost there. There we go. That looks good. So then take my reverse tweezers, and then we center the main sentiment onto the card the best we can, pressing it down. That looks good. Then we take the acrylic block and we place it down to make sure it's adhered. And then we're taking some foam tape and cutting it down into little strips with my detailed scissors, so we can add this to the back of the sub-sentiment strip. And I think I just trimmed it down to 3 or 4 pieces of tape. There we go. There we go. One more. And then that is ready to add to the front of the card after I peel the backers off. And so then I get my T-square ruler out to line up the sub-sentiment strip, trying to find the right spot for it. Yeah, just moving it around here and there just to see where I like it. And I think that's the spot for it. Yeah, just make sure it's nice and straight. There we go. And then I reach for my Sequins from Gina K. I think these are the disco balls, I think. It's written on there, I can't remember. And I pour some into my little triangle tray. Now we of course have to add some bling to this fabulous card. I reach for some Sequins from Gina K Designs and I pour some into my little tray. Then I get my liquid glue out and add some dabs of glue here and there for the sequins. It always takes me a bit to figure out the right placement for the sequins. So I'm just taking my little embellishment wand here from Simon Says, adding it. It's got a little wax tip so it picks up the sequins nice and easy. So I add a few more dabs of glue at the top. And we add a couple more pieces up there. Yeah, that looks good. One more. There we go. It always is good to have a nice odd number of sequins, as I learned from other crafters. I did decide to try to play with some more, but it turned out I didn't really like the placement of them and it just looked like too much sequin, so I ended up removing them. And there we have it. That is the finished card project for today. I think it turned out pretty great. Thank you for watching my very first YouTube video. I'm excited to share more cards with y'all. Thank you for watching.